Welcome to Etsy Success Strategies, the audio series, where you get to listen to and learn everything you need to know about selling on Etsy, one audio recording at a time. This episode is titled Assessing Your Personal Income from Your Shop, and this is recording number 119. And just so you know, this episode is a sneak peek of what you'll get when you subscribe to the new premium service I'm offering. And if you'd like to know when it goes live, please visit convome.com/read to me and complete the form there to get on the early notification list. Now, don't fall into the age-old Etsy trap of not paying yourself for the work you put into the products you sell on Etsy, be it for the time you spend either making or designing your products, or time spent sourcing and hunting for the vintage items or supplies you sell. And don't forget that you also spend time on administrative tasks like shipping, customer service, organizing your inventory, etc. Now, in this episode, I'm going to give you some tips on how to ensure that you get paid for the time, effort, and skill that you put into the products you sell and the business you're running.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
First things first, you must understand your expenses. If you're on the handmade side, that includes the cost of your raw materials and everything that goes into making your products. Now, if you're a supply or vintage seller, that should include not just the acquisition cost of the goods you plan to resell, but also the costs associated with acquiring them, like for special licenses, entry fees to events, gas, parking costs at places you go to buy, etc. Now let's talk about putting a price on your time. One method is to track the number of hours you spend on your business. Then decide on an hourly wage for your time, not an hourly wage. Finally, build that hourly wage into the price of each item you sell. Now, this is in addition to the cost of your raw materials or the acquisition cost of the vintage or supply item that you're selling, as well as the time for your labor, either making the product or cleaning and prepping an item for sale. Now, just note, there's no minimum or maximum hourly wage. That figure has to be a personal decision based on your own unique situation and what you think your time is worth. Now, let's talk about putting a price on your skill set. Don't you hate it when people minimize what you do by insinuating that they can do the same thing, whether it be making or reselling an item? Now, if you've developed a skill in making a product or more, or you've developed an eye for vintage items, you understand their history, and you know how to value and sell them for top dollar. So you need to be charging for those skills. If the price you come up with is more than what you think you'd pay for an item, don't worry. Just remember that sometimes even you might not be your own customer. There are people out there who are willing to pay someone like you to do all what you did so that they can just get the product without having to do all that work for themselves. Also, Etsy shoppers aren't necessarily looking for a deal like shoppers would be on eBay or Amazon, perhaps. And be sure that you always highlight both the features as well as the benefits of the products to your shoppers. As a rule of thumb, just think about it this way. Benefits show what value the products will bring to the buyer, while features show what your product will and can do. So, for example, a benefit of an oyster shell bracelet would be that it complements most evening wear and it will make a versatile addition to one's accessory stash. While a feature of this same oyster shell bracelet would be that it has an easy grasp clasp that will make putting it on very easy to do with just one hand. I hope you can see the difference in that. Now, if you're churning out lots of products and you feel that your current pricing is just right, another way to increase your income is to offer a premium version of your product, which you can charge more for but sell fewer of. Remember, The price of a product sends a message about its value. If your price is too low, it might seem to indicate inferior quality. And sometimes people don't just want to buy a cheap item. They want to know that they're spending money in something that is of good quality. If you like what you heard in this episode and you think you could benefit from having this type of detailed educational tutorials about ways to make your Etsy selling experience better and more profitable, then please consider getting on the early notification list for the Etsy Success Strategies audio series once it launches. Go to convome.com/read-to-me to sign up. Now, please go and log into your Etsy shop and do something constructive with what you've just learned. And if you still have questions, you can leave them in the comments section below this episode, and I'll do my best to answer them. And lastly, if you found this helpful, could you please help me spread the word about this resource to other current or aspiring Etsy sellers? I will be back next week with another Etsy seller interview, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.